a bucket and a foul. Breakaway. Io.
Oh, meet me at the rim and don't be late.
Give me the hot sauce. Did you not get the memo? Derek Rose can go upstairs.
Oh, he's got Giddy to steal. Right for the lead. Yeah!
Big time plays. Big time plays.
Giddy for the win. Go!
Oh, my God. I cannot believe this.
Improbable.
Hey, everybody, welcome into a brand new edition of the Gimme the Hot Sauce podcast. Apparently, Tim and I didn't get the memo. It's halfway to St. Patrick's Day. Or Stacey King arriving all in green. We didn't get the memo.
Wow. Hey, man, that's uncalled for, Mark. I wasn't ready for that one. I wasn't ready coming in the show.
Cheers.
Yeah. Wow. No, it's money green, baby, money green. You know, I decided to wear green today.
You got the cross and everything, man. You're looking sharp.
America, there we go, right there. We got the A's hat on right there, green. I wanted to wear my Cubs hat, but I refuse to wear it until they go back on a win streak.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that in our last segment. Stacey was right.
Thank you.
Stacey was right. We'll talk a little baseball a little bit later. We got a brand new segment coming up. Our good friend Glenn Morgan is going to join us. He's going to be talking Bears with us this season. They're coming off their first preseason game, that 24-24 tie. That's in our next segment. But as usual, we start out with what's going on in the NBA. First of all, let's start with the local team. The Chicago Bulls are still trying to work out a deal with Josh Giddy. There were reports over the last couple of days that they offered him a 4-year, $80 million contract, which that's easy math for us, $20 million per season. And when you consider the fact that Giddy's camp supposedly is looking for $30 million, that's a pretty big divide right there.
It's a huge divide. I mean, I feel like it'll come somewhere in between the two numbers, like 25, 24, 25. You know, when you look at that, you look at those numbers, the first thing you question, if you don't know anything about the numbers and the salary cap and all this stuff, the first thing people look at, well, you gave Patrick Williams $90 million, now you're going to get, but that's not what it is, because it overall averages out more than what Patrick Williams' contract is. It's going to be tough, man. I mean, you know, he's worth it. I mean, nobody wants to pay a player $30 million. You don't want to. But with the way the market is going, Mark, I mean, you got Suggs out there making it, Maxey, you got, Quickly. These guys are out there, and his numbers are just as good or better than some of those guys. He's a triple-double waiting to happen. He's a 6'7" point guard that does so many different things well. People look to, well, is he going to be a better shooter? We don't want to pay all that money for a guy who can't shoot. Well, if you look at his numbers, I mean, he improved as a shooter last year in the second half of the season. So all his numbers are trending upward. So if you're the Bulls, you hear all these different scenarios. That's why I don't really like listening to, outside of the X, the Twitter and Instagram and all that stuff. You got all these different trade proposals. The Bulls are going to trade Giddy for Kuminga. Veto me. I'm vetoing that, okay? Or sitting Giddy anywhere. To me, for a kid that young that has such a huge upside, he is going to be a very good player in this league, whether he's playing for the Bulls or anywhere. And you don't want to be in that regret mode. Like, we gave up this guy over a couple of $1 million here and there. At the end of the day, this guy's a walking triple-double. There's not too many guys in this league that can say that you can say every single night is going to be floating around with a triple-double.
Yeah, he turns 23 in October.
Yes.
So, I mean, he's
with
super
all the
young,
pro experience.
4 years experience. You look at his numbers after the Levine trade, he averaged almost a triple-double, like 21, 10, and 9, which is crazy.
Mark, I was there. I was highly impressed with, because you don't get to see them a lot when they're on other people's teams. You're not focused on them until you have to play them, then you'll go over their numbers and everything. I was highly impressed with what he did when he came here with the Bulls. I felt like, wow, this is the point guard. If Zoe, was not healthy, and you weren't really sure about him, this is the guy you go to. He's younger, he's bigger. I still like Zoe. Don't get me wrong, I still like Zoe, but what he brought in the second half of the Bulls season, it turned it around. I mean, if the Bulls would have played this way in the first half, or just halfway like this, they'd have been in the playoffs easily. They could have easily been a 6th seed. So that's got to be encouraging to the front office that they found one. Especially watching Alex Caruso win a championship. And then shout out to Alex, who just got married. Shout out to
you
my
see
boy.
those pictures on Instagram?
Shout out
Kobe
to Alex.
was there.
Yes. Shout out to Alex, Congratulations, you and the bride, man. But, you looking back, and Alex made a huge impact on what Oklahoma City did. Was he a big impact for them winning? Hell yeah. I don't care what anybody says. I know they looked at the regular season. He didn't play a lot of the games in the regular season.
He had some good scoring games, too, in the playoffs.
But he showed up when the games really mattered and they needed him to do certain things. He did them and up and beyond the Call of Duty. So if you're the Bulls, you're looking at that. We traded this guy here.
Yeah.
We got to have some faith in this guy. We don't want to have to pay him 30, but the market is kind of dictating that you pay 30. Even though there's no market out there right now, if someone had the money to pay him that money, trust me, they would. They just don't have it. I mean, Brooklyn was the only team I think that was even close to being able to
space.
But they don't need him. They don't need him. But the teams who actually need a point guard, if they had the opportunity to get him and had the money to get him, trust me, they would.
And when you're reading some of these articles on X, take it with a grain of salt because right now, let's be honest, it's the dead period in the NBA, August and most of September. There's very little going on either with contracts. People aren't working out. There's no leagues. So these writers have to come up with something. And we showed you that report if you were watching us visually that it was Jake Fisher from the Stein line. And both Mark Stein and Jake Fisher are outstanding reporters. But, hey, they got to get clicks in August and September, too. So they're putting whatever they hear and just throwing it out there. I don't think that either the Warriors or the Bulls are talking seriously about a Giddy for Kuminga swap.
Well, then you also hear. I saw some things on the internet where sending Josh to Toronto for the kid from Toronto that went
Barrett,
from
RJ
Barrett,
yeah.
and the Bulls giving up a first-round pick.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Which was crazy.
Yeah,
why would you give up a first-round pick for RJ Barrett?
I'd rather have Giddy anyway.
Yeah, exactly. So listen to some of these. I mean, don't listen to a lot of these people. If it's not Shams or Woj who's no longer doing it, don't pay too much attention to it. Bulls Nation.
They're just trying to generate some content in the dead period.
And I know AK and Mark are going to try to do what they can to keep this kid because you don't make that trade.
No.
And then let him walk. You just don't do that. You don't get a kid who's 23 years old, just turning 23, that has that much impact on the game. It can make your team better, and he showed that he can play alongside Kobe because, at first it was Kobe's name always in the trade talks. And so those two worked really well in the backcourt. Kobe became the scorer that I always said he could be. People thought I was crazy. He's a point guard. He's a combo guard that can score and can play some point. Yeah. And now he's doing what he's supposed to be doing by becoming a scorer. Now you pair him with a guy who's a pass-first point guard who's going to get him shots and get him easier shots and more efficient shots. Yeah, your backcourt is set for a long, long time.
We congratulated Alex Caruso on his marriage. We now want to congratulate a friend of the program, JaVante Green. According to Shams Charania, has agreed to a one-year deal with the Detroit Pistons. If you missed last week's show, Stacey got Detroit as the second-best team in the East for next season. And JaVante Green can help a contending team.
I tell you what, he's going to fill a lot of different roles for them. He's a guy that can guard, 3 or 4 people on the floor. He brings energy off the bench. That's one thing you can count on him. And, people underestimate how important it is to have guys in an 82-game season that come ready to play every single night. Bulls Nation, remember when he was here, he was a difference maker some games where his energy coming in and sparking with a dunk or a steal or a block. And it's huge for a team that is trying to ascend to be a serious playoff contender. Detroit has made some really good moves in such a short period of time. They drafted well, and they've let those kids kind of, mature to the point where they put the right veterans around them. And now they went from having the worst record, the most losses in a season, to becoming a 6th seed the next year. So I see them this year, both them and Orlando, taking huge jumps this year. Do not be surprised if you don't see Detroit. I still think Cleveland is the top team in the Eastern Conference because you don't know how Boston's going to be. They gave up half their starting lineup. Tatum's out. You don't know how well. I mean, losing Halliburton and then losing, the big kid who went to Milwaukee is tougher for Miles Turner.
Yeah, you could have Milwaukee, Boston, and Indiana all in the play-in this year. They could take a big drop.
Yeah, and I don't even know if they're good enough to be in the play-in, to be honest with you. I mean, they're missing so many. Boston is missing so many starters. You got to remember, there's some teams this year that help themselves, in free agency and the draft. Don't sleep on Atlanta Hawks.
They'll be nice.
They get Jalen Johnson back, who missed almost all the season with injury last year. They get him back, which is almost adding a new player, and he's on the cusp of becoming an all-star caliber player. He was averaging like 17, 18 points a game when he went out. They got some really good depth. They got Porzingis there that's going to give him a big, boost if he can stay healthy and be available. When he's
now they got Nickeil Alexander-Walker and Luke Kennard to come off their bench.
When Porzingis is available and he can play, he's a big asset.
Yes, he
to
is.
have.
Gives him a stretch five.
When he's not out there, your team is totally different. And they still were able to keep Okonwu. They're still able to keep him. So they've got a really good depth at all those
Dyson
positions.
Daniels is really coming.
Yeah, I mean, he's probably
Jalen Johnson. I mean, that's a good team.
Hey, Daniels probably should have been up for Defensive Player of the Year.
Yes, indeed.
That kid from start to finish was a ball hawk, a ball thief.
The barrier thief, they're calling him. That's a nice nickname.
Yes, he was a nightmare to people when he was on them. I mean, he'd take the ball. So there was games he had 5-6 steals in a game. Yeah. You know, so I haven't seen a guy with hands like that since my boy Mookie Blaylock. Yeah. He plays just like Mookie Blaylock as far as his anticipation and his ability to know where the ball is going to be, where he can go get it.
Former Atlanta Hawk as well, Mookie Blaylock. The other NBA news was about contract extensions. Neither of them a surprise. We'll start with Luka Donic, who signed for a 3-year extension with the Los Angeles Lakers the first day he was eligible. And the behind-the-scenes story is more interesting than the numbers. We knew he was going to get a max extension. He could have taken 3 years. He could have taken 4. This gets him back into free agency quicker. It'll be more money for Luka. But the Lakers are catering this whole team around Luka Doncic. And LeBron has been very silent as this has been going on. He did call, reportedly, FaceTime with Luka, congratulated him on. I don't think there's any friction between those two, but clearly LeBron's camp knows that everything the Lakers do moving forward is centering around building a team for Luka Doncic.
Well, I think you hit the nail on the head. I think that he realizes that he no longer has the power and the control that he once had to make decisions among who's going to be on the team or not. The Lakers are going a different direction. They got different ownership. Pelinka's still there, but I'm guaranteed the owners probably told him, hey, listen, we're not just going to go out here and just, let a player dictate who we're bringing here. We want to win. We want to win now. We're going to build this team around Luka. And, Luka's in shape. I mean, Luka looks the best I've seen him look in a long time. And you're going to get a motivated Luka, because, last year Luka didn't want to be traded. We talked about it last week. And it really hurt him. And I thought he was in a funk that, that he got traded. It really hurt him to his core. And then coming off an injury where he was not in the best of shape, but he went out there and played. And to be honest with you, even though he was bigger and he was out of shape, wasn't in shape, he still put up numbers, and he still showed you why he's one of the top 5 players in this game. And the Lakers knew that, hey, listen, he lost a lot of money not being able to re-sign with Dallas, okay? So in order to keep this kid happy, and he's still young, like 25 years old, he's still young. So let's first day of free agency, let's go and knock this out, give him the max, whatever the max is, let's get it out the way. And then he took a shorter term where he can turn around and re-get what he lost.
Yeah, they're saying after he gets done with this extension, he can sign a max deal for $419 million over 5 years. I mean, we're not far away from having a $100 million a year player.
No, I mean, I'm telling you right now, unless the league, the owners do something, you're going to see a lot of guys. This is why, like, these kids who are, like Cooper Flagg coming in, he might be the first, $500 million player. I mean, he's 19 years old. If he can play with all the expectations that are given to him and he reaches any of those expectations, trust me, if he can play, which we all think he can, Dallas is going to give him the money they didn't want to give Luka.
Yeah.
And Luka is going to recoup his money that he'll lost.
Get it all back.
He's going to get it all back, and he's going to be in a place where his endorsements are even going to be more. He's in a bigger city. Not saying Dallas is not a big city, but Los Angeles and Dallas are no comparison. He's going to be able to make his brand there. And then when it actually becomes his team, which is already pretty much becoming his team, he's going to have a lot more marketability deals to get in, like cars. You already see he's got, he's the Jordan brand. He's the face of the Jordan brand. Yeah. He was just here in Chicago a couple of weeks ago promoting, the Jordan brand. So he's on his way to becoming a super, 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 superstar.
The other big extension went to DeAaron Fox. He got 4 years, $229 million from the San Antonio Spurs.
Surprise.
Of course, they worked the trade with Sacramento to bring him in. A lot of people were wondering about his future. They drafted Dylan Harper.
Yeah.
They've also got Stephon Castle, and that people thought how those 3 guards are going to coexist. But I think that, with Wemby there, everything you can do, almost anything with a talent as unique as that.
Well, I think one of the things that I was looking at is, okay, you go out and go get a point guard, supposedly the best point guard in the draft, in Dylan Harper. Where does that put a De'Aaron Fox? And listen, if you're the Spurs in any team, you give up a lot to go get a guy like that. You just can't let him walk. There's a reason why you went out and got him in the first place. You felt like, yes, Chris Paul's getting a little older. This is a young guard who's super fast, super quick, could play alongside a very good Wemby as he's developing into the star that they think he's going to be. And you got a lot of young talent around him. So, and he's not a locker room problem. He's a guy that loves to play basketball. He's going to do whatever he needs to do to make his team win. So it's a no-brainer for the Spurs. I was surprised that, that they would, especially after drafting Dylan Harper, you think that they would have, in the draft, would have went and got a need position, at that position. But Dylan Harper was too good to pass up.
They've also tried to bulk up their front court. They brought in Kelly Olynyk and the former Bull, Luke Cornett, who came off a really good season with the Celtics last year. You think the Spurs can make the playoffs in the West? I know the West is loaded. They'd have to make a big jump to get into that top 8.
They'd have to do something similar to what Detroit did.
Yeah.
They would have to, first of all, it all depends on Wemby. If Wemby shows up every night and he's healthy and he's on the floor, that gives them a really good chance to win. Castle is a very good young player. We already know what DeAaron Fox can do. They've got the talent, and a lot of Johnson, all those guys they've got who've been developing, Vessel, all those guys who've been developing over the last 4 or 5 years now are ready to take that next step. The big question is that coach going to get them to where they need to go?
Right.
Johnson
taking over for Pop.
You know what Popovich was going to do. You know how he was going to coach. He demands certain things. You just don't know. You haven't seen a big, large sample size of Mitch Johnson with this team. And now he's got all the pieces. He's got security now. They re-signed him, gave him an extension. So he's not going anywhere. He's not coaching for his job. So he's going to be able to go out there and put his stamp on this team while Popovich moves to the front office. But Popovich's hand's still going to be in there. But it'll be interesting to see. They got enough talent, Mark, if Wemby can stay healthy, that they can challenge for a playoff spot.
So NBA training camps will open in about 6-7 weeks, but now we're getting ready for the start of the NFL season, and we're going to welcome in Glenn Morgan to talk about that coming up next. But first, I want to tell you about one of our great sponsors, our buddy Jeff Vukovic. He'll take care of all your insurance needs, auto, home, and business. He is the best in the game. Jeff Vukovic, a Chicago sports fan. You see him at the United Center rooting on Chicago's team. So contact him for all your insurance needs. You can reach him at jeffvuk.com. That's VUK.com. The phone number 847-825-4783. Time for the jingle from the man in green, Stacey King.
Nationwide is on your side.
You saw the Green Lantern movies, the Green Goblin.
Oh, my God.
The Hulk. Man, we got it all. The man in green. Forget about the lady in red. We got the man in green. Stacey King. Hey, Glenn Morgan is next. Give me the hot sauce.
That's what I deal with, America.
Welcome back. Give me the hot sauce rolls on. It's our pleasure now to welcome in a good friend. I worked with Glenn for about 14 years over at Comcast Sportsnet, which turned into NBC Sports Chicago, which turned into Dust. But that's a whole other podcast. Glenn
Thanos
Morgan.
got us, baby. Thanos got us.
He had his own show over there, Talking Bears on NBC Sports Chicago, and I knew him well over the years. It's great to have you here. Thanks for joining our little party.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it. I'm looking forward to having fun. I'm already feeling the Irish cheer going on over here. Add and go, brah.
Glenn, you just started today, Glenn. Don't lose your job in the first 5 minutes, buddy. Okay? You got to get some collateral over here first. Some equity in the show, buddy.
What's interesting is you take a look at his single shot. If you're watching on CHSN or on YouTube, you see all Stacey's hot sauce behind it. So make sure you go to GimmeTheHotSauce.com and pick up your bottle.
Way to go, Mark. Way to get some free promotion there, Mark.
Got Mike Tyson's boxing trucks. Tim's always scavenging to find some great collectibles.
And they're not washed either. We smell it every time we come in the studio.
I smell something.
Yeah. All these years, I thought it was Tim, but it's the shorts.
Well, Bears fans are hoping to smell some victories this year.
Lord!
Coming off a 5-12 season. What was it? How many did they lose in a row at the end there? Almost. They went from 4-2 to 4-11, so that would be 9. That was ugly.
You stopped counting after a while.
They did finish the year by winning at Lambeau Field, which gave them a little bit of momentum. Then they hired Ben Johnson, and all of a sudden the arrow's pointing up for the Chicago Bears. They are in the hardest division in football, but just go back to the whole Ben Johnson thing. What do you think he's going to inject into this whole program?
I think for the most part, when you think about Ben Johnson, accountability is the first thing that comes to mind. Ben Johnson's going to hold everyone accountable, himself, coaches, the players specifically, and attention to detail, something that was sorely missing over the last, count how many different regimes.
Mm-hmm.
And we've seen that. We've heard about it during training camp. We saw about it during Fan Fest when he was very upset about how the players performed. But I think we saw when we talk about last night's game with the first preseason game, you saw just how much the players cared about what they were doing out there. And we saw the second unit offensively for the most part, but defensively, we saw these guys get after it. What they did during the goal line stance, how all the players played with speed, purposefulness, and those are things that were missing from time to time over the last couple of regimes. So accountability and attention to detail is something that we're going to see from Ben Johnson coach teams.
Well, one of the things I noticed was a big notice for me is that Caleb Williams didn't play. And especially having a new system, a new coach, even if he only played, a series or two, having him out there and running some reps with the first team offense. Let's see how he's doing this offense. Let's see if he's understanding what they need him to do. Right. And not having him out there, was a little disappointing. Disappointing. And I've seen that with veteran quarterbacks where they say, hey, look, he's not going to play the first game. Right. But Caleb's not a veteran quarterback. He struggled at times last year. I like Caleb Williams, but I thought he should have been out there that first preseason game.
I don't disagree with you. As a fan, you're disappointed because you want to see him play. You've been looking forward to it. You've heard everything during the offseason. Let's see what it looks like. And I think when you look at and you speculate on it, let's take the negative side of it. Why isn't he out there? Does he not know enough? Does he look not good enough out there that you don't want him to be exposed? Do you want his confidence to be shaken because he's not ready or prepared? Because some of the stories you hear, too, that sometimes there's issues with the team lining up with execution. So do you not put him in the spotlight because you don't want him to look bad? Ergo, everyone else looks bad. And what are we doing here? And the fans already start to feel like, what the hell? Are we seeing a repeat of the last couple of, quarterbacks that we brought in here from Trubisky to Fields? On the upside, you want to be positive, they and the Bears have more or less iterated this, is that during the joint practices with the Dolphins, the first unit looked really good. I mean, they really, on both sides of the ball, offensively and defensively. So maybe they felt that there was nothing else to be gleaned from being out there again with the same team you just played. Let's see what the other guys can do, because it's a team that you're not just building with your first unit. You have to have depth as well, because football is an attrition sport. So you can look at it both ways, maybe find down the middle. I think going forward, we definitely need to see him next week. You have to, because the timing is a factor. And you brought it up. You're going to have veteran players that are out there. Mahomes played. And we're not saying he has to play the whole quarter. Yeah. We want to see maybe one or two series. Yeah. His some of his counterparts, Drake May played, but Jaden Daniels didn't. But Jaden Daniels went to the Pro Bowl. They were a game away from the Super Bowl. So to your point, he's a young quarterback still with an entirely new system and new demands being met in terms of, timing when it comes from playing under center, stuff that he didn't do a lot in his collegiate career and didn't do a lot last year. So there are things that we want to see as fans, as people who are vested in this team. That being said, I think there's something to it, and more than we know. But if the players and the coaches feel that they're getting enough of these joint practices, and I think he also did another 70 plays, more or less, like air plays they call it, and we kind of rep that. So he's getting the reps. We're just not seeing it. And when you can't see, you start to fill in the blanks. Yeah. And when you're here in Chicago, you fill in the blanks a little bit negatively because that's what you've been used to seeing.
Both of the quarterbacks who did play, actually they played three. Austin Reed got in at the end. But you think they're going to carry three on the 53-man roster? I know Keenum was brought in as kind of a mentor coach to Caleb. He kind of chafed at that, so I'm here to compete and play. But I've also heard that they really like Tyson Bagent. You think they'll keep all three?
I do. I believe they will keep all three. The NFL has a little thing where you can keep three quarterbacks, so I think they'll take advantage of that. Bagent has proven that he understands how to play in NFL. I think with Bagent, what may be lacking, and it's just from my perspective, sometimes it's the suddenness of his passes, the velocity behind it, making those throws. He can make all the throws at NFL level, but the velocity, how quickly does the pass get there? There are times where you can make the pass, but if the defense can break on it, how effective are you? So I think 10 to 15, 20, 25, short to intermediate, Bagent is very good. He understands how to execute. He does a great job. He's always done a great job. It's the reason why he's still in the NFL. I think where it becomes challenging for him is down the field when you have to make those big throws. Mm-hmm. And when defenses know you can't do that consistently and effectively, they can sit on routes, and then that's when it kind of becomes a problem. Keenum gives you that veteran that he doesn't have the big arm, but his experience, his ability to anticipate, he can get the pass off quick enough. And you saw some of that yesterday. He was able to get the pass. Even when he was getting hit, it still got there because of his ability to anticipate and know when to throw the ball and where to put it. So those guys are excelling because they have an ability to work within the system. Caleb I think sometimes still fights against what he does athletically. And when you got that type of talent, you want to be able to, show what you can do. And I think football, and particularly at the quarterback position, is one of those positions where your personality displays itself on the field. You can point to pretty much almost any starting quarterback, especially the exceptional ones. Their personality is all interwoven with how they execute on the field, from Lamar Jackson, to Josh Allen, Mahomes, to Jaden Daniels, to even Justin Fields, if you want to, because we saw him here. Justin's a very deferential individual. He comes from a home and a family where discipline is important. So I think Justin, to his credit, never threw anyone under the bus. He listened to the coaches, but I think he deferred too much. And he fought against himself, the athlete that we can see is just like, unbridled athlete, just waiting to explode. And wait, you want me to do what? And so he was in conflict with himself here in Chicago. We saw a little bit less of that in Pittsburgh, and hopefully his new place in the Jets, they'll play more to his personality. But getting back to Caleb, that's what the Bears and that's what Johnson's going to have to do, be able to harness his ability and marry that with what the coach and the offense is asking for. I give a comparison to Holmgren and Brett Favre. I'm not saying that Caleb is going to be a Hall of Famer. I'm not saying he's not going to be a Hall of Famer. But Holmgren was tearing out his hair with all the things that Brett Favre would do, because when you play out the pocket, that's when Caleb is like excels. That's where he does his Superman stuff. That's where we're excited. But that can also get you into trouble. So harnessing that, getting the best of that, and you're able to do that. If Holmgren to Brett Favre could be the comparison, then that would be great for Chicago.
Who did you think yesterday stood out on offense and defense? And what guy, on offensive line, defensive line, DBs, which guys you thought stood out yesterday in the first preseason game?
I thought Kyle Monangai stood out really well. The running back out of Rutgers, he gives you that bruising element that was missing a little bit last year. That was missing once we saw Montgomery go to Detroit, and now that we have Ben Johnson, he saw what that looks like. So he wants to kind of do the same thing here to recreate something similar. I thought he did okay in pass pro. He was there. He has to get better at sustaining his ground and holding and being able to block better. But he ran strong. He ran with purpose. And he ran with conviction. He's got pretty good contact balance. And the great thing about him is that he never had a fumble at Rutgers. And he had back-to-back 1,000 yards there. And he's one of the better running backs in the Big Ten. But it was quiet because it was at Rutgers.
Yeah.
But I thought he stood out well. I thought the offensive line did an exceptional job as a unit. I was really impressed with them. And Bajent, it did a nice job. I mean, really, he had one drive, I believe it went about 12 places. It's probably like it was a really long drive. And they went 94 yards and able to score a touchdown with that. And that's you don't see that often. Sometimes a 94-yard drive might be 5 plays because there's an explosive play in there. It's very difficult to sustain that going all the way down the field and then round it out with having a touchdown at the end. So I thought both quarterbacks did a pretty decent job. But number one, I would say Kyle, then I would go offensive line as a unit, and then I would say the two quarterbacks collectively, and that being Keenum and Bajent.
Defensively, I know people are excited about Dennis Allen coming in as the coordinator.
Yes.
And in that practice against the Dolphins on Friday, they made life miserable for Tua Tagovailoa. He was intercepted 3 times. Kevin Byard met the media afterwards, and he said, if we play like we've been practicing, we're going to be pretty damn good. And you'd like to hear a 10-year vet saying stuff like that as early in training camp.
Undoubtedly. And the great thing about Dennis Allen, he's been around. He's confident. He knows who he is. And if our situation, by our, I mean the Chicago Bears and the Bear fans, the situation can mirror anything like what the Chiefs have in terms of you have a defensive coordinator who, probably not going to go anywhere for a while. So you can have that kind of sustainability, that continuity that you've been looking for. And your head coach, if he's successful, that being your offensive coordinator as well, not going anywhere. Once you have continuity, you can create and generate that consistency that you need to sustain as far as being a winning organization. And I think we have that potentially here. Also, too, if you look at, I know you said defensively, I'll say right quick, you look in this division from Vikings, Packers, and Detroit, the coaches are young. The general managers are young. The quarterbacks are young. We've got the youngest in both facets. Mm-hmm. And with that, I mean, they're not going anywhere. And when you have a division where you have that continuity with the head coaches and the general managers, it can be very eerily similar to what we see in the AFC North between the Ravens and Bengals. And the Browns have been kind of, back and forth a little bit, up and down. But they look like they might have something going forward, as well as with the Steelers. But as far as the defense, having someone like Dennis Allen here, you know you're going to get someone who knows what the heck he's doing. And it's the buy-in. Can these players buy in? And it looks as though they bought in extremely
Austin
quickly.
Booker, 3 sacks, who was a guy they drafted in the 5th round in 24. He really flashed against the Dolphins.
Most definitely. And the great thing about him, you're looking at an athlete who's got that ranginess. He's long arm, long limb. He's explosive. He does a really good job getting up the field. He has a couple of moves. He's still working on increasing his toolbox. But his ability to continue and be nonstop got him a couple of extra sacks as well, or, pressures too. And you love that. You want that from your young guy. But, I mean, everybody was flying to the ball yesterday. You saw Sewell do really well. Ruben Hippolyte did really well. They've got speed, and so you're seeing depth right now begin to exert, show itself. And you're seeing that, and you're like, well, man, if these are the guys that are playing behind the other guys, how good are the other guys looking? And our secondary, as deep as it is, and we still have some issues with Johnson and his health, but man, you can't tell me that with any amount of pressure generated up front that these guys, between the linebackers and the back four, that they don't have an ability to break on balls, create turnovers. I don't care about sacks as much. It's great when you get them, but when you generate pressure creates turnovers. Turnovers gets the ball back into your offense that can be explosive, that has an ability to be able to run and pass. You're looking at the development of a unit and a team that really the arrow's pointing up.
Getting a chance to see, I saw Minnesota and I saw Green Bay play a little bit. I saw the Lions play. Lions look like they're in midseason form. They look like they're ready to go. I wasn't really impressed with Minnesota. They're going to have a quarterback controversy because they're trying to look to, is McCarthy going to start for them? Right. Is their number one pick? They got rid of Cousins for him, and I don't think they're going to be a bigger threat as everybody thinks. Green Bay is, Jordan Love is up and down. People are, there's some people high on him, and then there's people in Green Bay that's like, he's terrible. We need another quarterback. So so if the Bears, I've seen these different stats where there's some people that have the Bears only winning 4 games again this year. I don't see that. I'm taking an over on that.
Yeah.
I just think their defense is going to be much better. I think their offensive line is going to be much better. And I just think, Detroit is the class of the division right now. But I think the Bears can really make a nice jump this year and really, really surprise a lot of people.
Yeah. Sure. Yeah. Uh-huh.
So you haven't bought in, Glenn.
You're not buying in, Glenn?
Here's the thing.
We do every year.
All chips in.
I've been watching this league for half a century, and I've been watching the Bears just as long. And I don't get too excited. I don't get too down. I'm more pragmatic. And when you look at the Bears schedule, it is an extremely difficult schedule.
Yeah, they're supposed to get a break being the last place team. That didn't work out real well.
Out at all.
Yeah, it didn't work at all.
And by being in one of the toughest divisions, inherently it's going to be difficult. And then you've got the AFC North, who I referenced earlier, because those coaches and those quarterbacks, a lot of them have been in place for a while. It's going to be very difficult. Those defenses are exceptional. Even the Browns defense has got one of the best defensive players in all the league. And then you look at the NFC East, and I know people are sleeping on the New York Giants, and I know offensively you don't know who they are, but that defensive front seven is going to be a problem. They can come at you in waves. Their defense is going to be an issue, and the Bears are going to have to face that defense. You look at Washington. There's a team that figured out who they were, and their confidence is high. They're going to be a problem. And then we're still figuring out who we are on offense. So can the Bears be everything that you suggested they could be? Certainly. Why? Because the NFL is NFL, and I mentioned earlier, it's a game of attrition. A couple of quarterbacks go down, a couple of the wrong people go down. It's when you face the team, where you're at when you face them, and how you can execute when that happens, yet to be determined. So, yes, the possibility's there, but it's going to be extremely difficult this season, I think. And here's the thing. If the Bears win 7 games, but they're in the 10 games they lose, they're in 7 of those, that's more of an upswing in a lot of ways than we might think, depending on who they lose to. If they barely lose to the Ravens, they barely lose to, the Bengals in Cincinnati, barely lose to Watt, they barely lose to these playoff caliber teams. Okay, how do they look doing it? And then you can take from that and glean that they're going in the right direction. By the same token, the Bears can turn around and be 11-6 if everything goes right. So I think their floor is somewhere between 7 and 11.
But you got me scared there, Glenn, because it's like you're like glum. We'll never make it. We're doomed. You know, with me, Tim, and Mark, we buy in every year, man. They trick us every year. You know, after Justin Fields last year here, that really tricked me because I thought they were definitely on the way up. And now watching Justin Fields being in two different locations, now he looks like he's found a home with the Jets. He looked like a serious, totally different player than he was here. And the Jets are ecstatic that he's their quarterback. And he looked good the other night. How much pressure is on Caleb Williams and the Bears front office who made this decision not to take Justin Fields and pay him and went after, Caleb Williams and then traded away Justin Fields? How much pressure are they on if Justin Fields turns out and has a great solid year, one of the best quarterbacks in the AFC?
That would probably be as problematic as watching J.J. McCarthy do well, who didn't play at all last year, but then comes back and then he has a better season than Caleb. It's as bad as it felt losing a game that you should have won in Washington last year and then seeing the second pick go all the way to the NFC Championship game. It's as bad as losing to Drake May, a team that only won one less game than you, beat you in Chicago. It's as bad as watching Bo Nix, who's drafted after you, go away and play.
There's a lot of bad things there, Glenn.
And Michael Penix looking like, he might be onto something here in Atlanta. So if Justin, the guy who was here, goes on and has an exceptional season, and exceptional could be 10 wins, 11 wins, you make the playoffs, and you're healthy the whole season, and you put up maybe 3,000 yards passing, and maybe you put up about 500 to 600 yards rushing, maybe 3,500 yards total offense, and you throw your touchdown interception ratio is 2-to-1 or better, and you're in the playoffs. Yeah, there's pressure.
Wow. Because there's going to be a lot of people watching that scenario now. They're going to be watching. I know, just listening to Twitter and being on Twitter and seeing, all the comments about Justin Fields. Now it's like, we shouldn't have let him go. We should have kept him. But when he was here, people didn't appreciate what he was doing. And I was always an advocate for Justin Fields. I felt like they should have traded down, got a haul for that first pick, which they would have, and then built their team that way. Because you were really close to being, Fields is really close to taking the next step for them, even without the weapons, even without an offensive line and coaching. He had none of those things that Caleb Williams has. Caleb Williams has everything. The first year, they go out and get him the receivers that he needs, comfort zone. The second year, they go out and get him a brand new coach who's like everybody wanted. Mm-hmm. He's got offensive coordinator. He's got a quarterbacks coach. He doesn't have to worry about not having quarterback coach meetings. Because he didn't know who to talk to because there was no quarterback coach. So he's got everything that was trending for him to have success that Justin Fields didn't have.
Defense.
And defense, exactly. So now you look at the Justin Fields and you're like, wow, if he comes out and let's say he I'm not saying he's gonna make all pro, but let's say he throws for 3,500 yards and 25 touchdowns, and he's got the weapons to do it.
He does.
He's got some weapons over there. He got a good running game with Breece Hall. He's got the wide receiver kid Garrett
Wilson.
Yes, and he's a big time. He's big time, and they got a solid defense.
Yes, they do, and they have depth. They have you mentioned Breece Hall, but Braylon Allen's just as good.
And if you remember when the Jets got when they ended up getting Aaron Rodgers, they were supposed to be a Super Bowl team because they had the defense, they had all the weapons, and Aaron Rodgers just stunk it up there and got hurt, and then that was the end of their run. But at the same token, they were considered a Super Bowl contending team. Now Justin Fields comes in, he's got most of those weapons and most of that defense back. Boy, if he turns around and has a great season and then Caleb Williams struggles this year, there's going to be a lot of people upset.
I'll say this, and I see you're wearing your jet green, so I see you're definitely vying for
I'm not supporting the Jets. I'm supporting – no, don't even go there. I'm supporting the Bears.
I was thinking the same thing.
Mark,
Green all of a sudden.
Mark, we don't pay you to think, okay? You be quiet over there. You're the reason this all started. No, I'm supporting Justin Fields.
No, I'm with you 100% in a lot of those a lot of things that you mentioned, and I'm a big personal context. A lot of times I think the context is lost, and we don't have time for it these days. Podcasts give you a little bit more time to talk, and talk about these things. And with Justin, you're looking at an individual now who got some of that bad juju out of him here in Chicago, in Pittsburgh, and now here in Green Bay, or excuse me, in New York Jets, you have a person here in Aaron Glenn who believes in you. Aaron Glenn's coached against you. who did Justin destroy more times than not? Most of his wins came against Detroit.
Yeah.
They had a hard time containing him, stopping him. You know, you even heard the Miami coach one time say, Justin, just stop. You know, when they played Miami that time, like, just stop it. Because if that person, coaching staff, players, GM is and or are, can harness his immense talents, you have a veritable weapon. I mean, someone probably second to maybe Lamar Jackson in terms of pure athleticism on the field. Every time Justin steps on the field, he's arguably the most talented, most athletic person on the field. Yeah. Arguably. He's no less than the top 3. What I saw, and it's just one preseason game, but what I saw yesterday from him was he was going through his progressions a little bit more quickly, but he wasn't as afraid to throw in the middle of the field as he was here in Chicago. And then he was more decisive. You know, he's like, I need to run, I'm going to go ahead and run. And then, you know, once he does that, everyone's, you know, who's not on his team is holding their breath. Everyone who's a fan is holding their breath in anticipation, you know, 2 different reasons why they're holding their breath. And Justin has an ability to throw the deep ball. So when you have a running game, Justin's a very accurate deep ball thrower. We have a running game with Breece Hall and Braylon Allen, and the offensive line for the Jets really stood out to me yesterday. They looked really good. When you can run the ball and you're able to do play action, and you have the talent that he has that he can throw the ball to with his arm, his accuracy throwing deep, and because of his ability to run the ball, you can, analysis by paralysis, do that to defenses at times. Yeah. And you just need that much of a time, that bit of a second for something to happen, you know, purposefully and better for the Jets and cataclysmically for the team that's facing them. So yes, potential, but we all know that's a killer for organizations at times too. And sometimes the Jets are going to jet, just like we used to say about the Lions, but that changed. We don't say that about the Lions as much like we used to. The Lions are going to lion. And where Aaron Glenn gets some of his last, you know, coaching, you know, experience from, the Lions building from the ground up, being as low as you possibly can be. At one point that they had less than a 20% winning percentage. And then they took off and they became the team that you alluded to earlier. So they look like they being the Lions, look like they're in midseason form. So if Aaron can bring that to the Jets, and hopefully, you know, Ben Johnson can do that same here for Chicago. And both coaches, I think they both took organizations where they knew there were other things in place. They weren't complete horrible organizations in terms of the roster. Both teams have good defenses. Both teams have some skill position players, and both teams have an ability to generate getting free agents. You know, coming to New York, you can sell people on that. Coming to Chicago, you can sell people on that. Yeah. And so I think the arrow's pointing up for both of those organizations. And it's going to take a little time, but I think pointing up is definitely something that they can look toward as the season.
All right, before we wrap it up, you'll get used to this. Tim gets the last question because we never know what he's going to ask. We should have pointed this out at the start of the interview. Glenn just doesn't talk about football. He played college football. Tennessee, right?
I wish I played at Tennessee.
Where did you play?
I did not.
He played in Tennessee on college football on NCAA. That's all. He's a Tennessee. He's a stud on the video game.
See, I know him so well. I thought he played at Tennessee.
And he's not. And listen, he's not as good on the video game as he should be. I smoke him. I smoke him.
So Tim, now's your chance. What do you got?
Well, we still got to go over the pivotal games, the crucial games. And
okay.
Stuff. So,
sure.
As a guy who bets millions on sports a year, what would you put the big money on for the game, the game that is the turning point game, or that game that you say I didn't see that one coming?
Well, I'll answer 2 answers. Turning point game has to be the Washington game because it's the game right after a bye. There'll be 4 games that the Bears have already played, so they should know where their struggles have been, and they would have played some decent teams during that time. But the pivotal one where things can go yay or nay, I think, is Washington, because it's also a revenge game for a lot of the players who lost there last year. And it's a scene of the crime. Return to the scene of the crime.
I like that one.
You know, so I think that's a pivotal one. But I think one of the more important games is the very first one, because it's a Monday night. You're at home, and you're playing J.J. McCarthy, who hasn't played, and you have to be better than him. Now, J.J. has some benefits and some advantages. He's been in that same system for a year. He played a little bit in preseason last year, but he's been in that system. So he's
got Jefferson.
And he's got Jefferson. He's got Addison. And he's got Hawkinson. And he's got a pretty good running game. And he's got one of the better offensive lines. And Brian Flores has one of the better defenses as an attacking defense. And Ben Johnson will let you know that I think he says, I'm 2-0 against Kevin McConnell, whatever. So Ben Johnson's not shy about it. So you're going to have egos. I don't mean that in a negative way, but you're going to have people out there really trying, from the coaching staff to the players on both sides, really going at one another.
And it's Monday night, so
it's a Monday night game.
Monday night curse for the Bears. We got to.
Hold on, now you're showing your age there. We're not going to go down Monday night curse.
I'm just saying, you got to overcome it right now.
Well, no curses. We're
Right.
This is a new start and everything, but it's an important game because you've got two of the better defensive coordinators in the league going at each other. I mean,
and you always want to get that first game at home, Monday Night Football. Yeah. Everybody's watching, your family,
and it's at
home. You don't want to get blasted at home.
But to your point, when you asked about pressure earlier, if the Bears and Caleb doesn't look good and they lose that game, you don't want that added weight, pressure, and onus of disappointment in the city, because you know how polarizing the city can be. I mean, we saw it when you had the Caleb Justin debate. This is for guys on your team, and there was a civil war in Chicago. Yeah, and we've seen it here in other sports, other sports teams in Chicago. Chicago could be, you win here, you don't have to buy a drink ever. You lose here, they'll never let you forget it. Yeah. No matter what city you're at. So I think those two those games are important for different reasons. But I think as far as pivotal and being able to pivot and things going forward, winning in Washington would be huge for the Chicago Bears.
Well, Glenn, thanks so much for coming all the way out to Palatine to join us. We look forward to talking Bears with you throughout the season.
Definitely.
Nice of you to join us in Tim's humble abode here, the Pelleray business.
Appreciate it, guys. Thank you for having me and bringing me along.
Now we're going to get Stacey a chance to talk about his great prediction on Cubs baseball. That's coming up next. Gimme
Lord have mercy.
Enjoy the insights from Glenn Morgan. He'll be with us throughout the season talking Bears and NFL football. And we mentioned that Stacey has not shown up wearing a Cubs hat all year, and he warned us he wanted to be 100% convinced that this year was real. And unfortunately, we're witnessing another Cubs collapse in the heat of summer.
This is why, Mark, I didn't drink the Cubs Kool-Aid, okay? I didn't drink it because they did this last year. They get your hopes up high thinking it's going to be a great season. They're going to be in the hunt for a World Series, and they find some way to let you down. Yeah. Deflating.
Hey, Cisco, you got that stat board we're talking about? Back on July 7th, the Cubs led the division by 4 games over Milwaukee. In the span of just over a month, they've lost 10 games. They've gone from 4 up to 6 down. Now, Milwaukee is playing historically great. There's something like 46-15 over the last, however many games. So they're playing phenomenal baseball. But to see things spin like that, it's happened before, but it's painful when it's Chicago sports.
Well, you look at Cincinnati. They made a move.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody's making moves. The Cubs are going down, and teams are going up.
The Cubs have basically been a 500 team the last 2 months.
Well,
and the offense, they stopped hitting. They were the top offense in baseball through early June.
It's been hot, Mark. It's hot.
Oh, come on there. Now. It's always hot.
The air is thick.
Listen, we're gonna look back on this, and they're gonna question why they didn't go out and get that frontline pitcher.
You're 100% right.
And it's gonna be a big eyesore for the rest of the season because you could use that guy like right now. You need a good number one guy to come in and stop the bleeding. Yeah. When you're just gushing right now, you need that one guy. Like I said, Clayton Kershaw always comes in. Dodgers lose 3 or 4 in a row. He would always come in and they'd win 3 or 4 in a row when he came in to pitch. You got to have that guy, and they're gonna regret probably not going after and getting. You would have to give up some prospects, but man, to get to the World Series, man, it took you over 100 years to win your first one. You don't want to take another 100 years.
Yeah, and you don't see it as much in basketball or the NFL where there's a midseason trade that really sparks a team. But in baseball, it happens all the time. Teams gear up for this trade deadline. And I remember I worked with Dan Plesac over at Comcast, and he was telling me stories about how in the clubhouse, they're watching to see what the front office will do because you're playing every day for 6 months, 162 games. You need that boost. And everyone thought the Cubs were going to go out and get that frontline starter. They ended up trading for a guy named Michael Soroka from the Washington Nationals. He pitched 2 innings, and he's like, oh, my shoulder, I can't pitch anymore. Wow. So now he's on the injured list. And Jed Hoyer, frankly, he just didn't do enough. And I think that really did a number. Everybody through the clubhouse, they were already kind of sputtering. They needed a boost from their front office, and they didn't get it.
Well, it boosts the team's confidence. Like, hey, you're going out making moves to make us better. So let's turn this thing around. You didn't go out there and do it. And, most of these guys are playing for World Series. They want to win a World Series. They want to win a World Championship. And when you don't have guys that care one way or the other, you don't want those guys on your team. I think everybody on the Cubs roster cares. And I think that was it kind of deflated, their psyche a little bit by them not making any move to go get a pitcher or another bat in the lineup. Bringing another bat in the lineup, because right now they're struggling at the plate, and you don't know when they're going to come out of this slump.
Yeah, and some of their best players who've been good throughout the season are all slumping at the same time. Pete Armstrong, Kyle Tucker, Michael Busch, Seiya Suzuki, all these guys have been awful over the last few weeks, and it's really brought the offense to a grinding halt. They've not been able to score runs consistently. They lost 2 out of 3 in St. Louis, and they had the 2 games they lost, they had their best pitchers on the mound, Matt Boyd and Shota Imanaga, and they pitched well, but they didn't get any run support.
Well, you might have to go back to that old small ball, baby. Just butt people on bases.
Yeah.
Let's move them around. Just get a couple of little dinky doinkwins out there.
Yeah.
And who knows, Mark, you can turn your whole fortune around, baby.
And the thing in baseball, you don't have to win your division. Wild card teams make good runs throughout the history of baseball since the wild card came in. And you think about Chicago struggling right now. How about New York? Both the Mets and Yankees suck.
Ooh.
The Mets have lost 11 out of 12. And they're fading fast.
Well, I mean, that's kind of expected with the Mets. I mean, they spend a lot of money on the wrong pieces. New York is surprising because they started off hot. They started off like, oh, wow, this is going to be a legit World Series team. And then all of a sudden, Judge and their big hitters, go through stretches where they don't hit. Now, the one thing about Yankees, they'll find a way to click and turn it on again, So they're going through a temporary thing right now. But I of the two, I see them getting hot sometime here right in August, September, and then moving on. I don't see the Mets doing it.
Yeah, with the Yankees, we could have put up the same kind of standings thing. They were leading the division. Now they're in third place. Not only has Toronto passed them, but the Red Sox have as well.
Oh.
They're barely hanging out of that last wild card spot. Hey, before we get out of here, it's our weekly feature. What are we watching? Whispers and I are both enjoying the new Dexter Resurrection.
I enjoyed it too. I've been watching it.
Oh, have you? Okay.
Yeah, I've
All
been
right.
watching it, man.
Big all-star cast, and
Yeah.
Uma Thurman as Harvard lawyer, and
They came up with a nice storyline with this one, with the with the cult
Yeah.
of serial killers
Yeah,
getting together
the cult
for
of
dinner.
cereal, for dinner. Yeah, I like that. I like that. And then you got little
Dinklage.
Dinklage is like
Peter Dinklage,
the weird guy, the
Yeah.
weird groupie guy for the
Yeah.
serial killers. Yeah, I like the way
the
that turned
vault.
out.
Did you like the vault, the tour?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Starting off the clown suit, just
Oh wow.
No, it's
well
it's
done.
really well done because, if you've never watched the Dexter franchise, you're like, well, how could you enjoy a serial killer franchise? But you root for Dexter because he's only killing people,
Only bad guy.
yeah, bad guys.
Yeah.
And the whole thing is, there's humor in it, and just the way the story has been written throughout the series, you kind of pull for the guy.
Well, I think the big twist is the ego is involved, including his own. So
Yeah.
you can't steal my name, the Dark Passenger.
The Dark Passenger. Yeah.
That's me.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
even upset about looking in the book at the Bay Harbor Butcher, and it's still Dokes, and
Yeah.
he's like, darn.
So if you've given up on Dexter, or maybe you
No.
watch it and thought, oh, I don't want to see it.
I thought this one is better than the second one.
You're right.
It is.
Because this was more on the taste of the original,
Mhm.
and then now you got his son involved, and so there's a whole bunch of different storylines that
Yeah.
they can go, and Dexter almost dies, and then he comes back, resurrection. This is why there's resurrection,
Yeah.
and then he's trying to help his son, but then he goes back into his old style, and it's like, oh my, this is the Dexter I like right here.
Yeah.
Like he's taking everybody out. He don't care.
So you get 3 thumbs up here,
Yep.
recommending
Yep.
Dexter Resurrection on Paramount Plus. What do you got for the folks?
Oh, I might have watched the worst movie in the history of movies. America.
It's always painful when you have to sit through 2 hours of a bad movie.
I'm watching the new Jurassic Park, okay? And I don't know how many more Jurassic Parks you can make.
Is that 8?
I don't know, but
Something like
the
that.
They'll keep
Jurassic
cranking
World,
them
the
out as long as
the
people
rebirth.
buy
Well, they should have
tickets.
never consummated this. They should have just let it die where it lied, right? They make this, and you got Charlotte Johansson in it. They got some good actors in it, but it's just horrible. It's unbelievable. What they did, America. The rebirth means what they're trying to do is they're trying to like build a different dinosaur. So they're taking the genetics of the old T-Rexes and they're making a new T-Rex. We already knew the old T-Rex was a killer. Now you want a super killer. So they got this T-Rex. I'm gonna tell you. I know y'all was like he's gonna tell us the whole movie. No, I'm not
It's
gonna
all
tell
right.
you about-
Don't worry
but
about
yeah,
it.
you know my MO. I'm gonna tell you everything. So this T-Rex they have that they created from the lab looks
got longer arms?
He's got he got short arms. You know what, Mark? He might have longer arms. He does have longer arms. He grabbed somebody.
That was the one weakness.
Yeah, he grabbed the dude and then put him in his mouth. But he looks like the alien. Yeah. You know, the alien with the head, the big head dome. Yeah. They made him look like that. Oh, it's terrible, dude. It's terrible. And you know what? You always have black guys in a movie, right? They're always the first ones to die. Okay, so they come off on the island. They're in the water, and this big old shark or something comes in, crash the boat, whatever that. So there's two black guys in the movie. The guy who did the not the Green Mile, but the Green Book. Is that
who is that? Idris Elba? Is that?
No. It's the other guy. But he's a good actor. He's always into things. So there's two black guys. So let me just tell you this, America. Only one survived. Okay, and the way they killed
the better numbers than
the way they killed the black guy was terrible, man. Like he's scaffolding down a mountain. First of all, you're going to get killed by anything in Jurassic Park. Okay, even the little animals will kill you, right? Yeah. So you're just food for everybody. So they're scaffolding down. They run into a pterodactyl nest, right? So this huge pterodactyl comes in there, and then the black guy's on the rope. The Scarlett Johansson hid in the cave, but they didn't let the black guy hide in the cave. Black guy's trying to scaffold up. Pull me up.
Not enough room.
No, not enough room. Sorry. You got to go somewhere else. So the pterodactyl comes out, climbs up the wall, and it's like snipping at him, right? Yeah. And you ever see them seagulls, how they like eat a fish, and they throw it up and they swallow the whole fish? They did my guy like that, man. That was terrible, right, dude. Yeah. They didn't even chew him up in half. They just swallowed him whole.
So was Mashallah Ali?
Ali.
Yeah. It's confusing because Samuel Jackson comes up too. I forgot he was in Jurassic Park.
Yeah, he was supposed to be the new Blade. Ali was supposed to be the new Blade.
What happened there?
They decided not to make it.
All right, so Stacey says stay away from the latest Jurassic Park.
Thumbs down.
Hey, I found a really interesting show on Apple Plus. It's called Smoke. Taron Egerton plays a guy who's an arson investigator, but it turns out he's an arsonist. And he's the one setting fires. And Journey Smollett is in there as a police who suspects him as being the arsonist and trying to catch him.
Catch a neck.
Does he have a code like Dexter, or is it just
no? He's just screwed up. I mean, Egerton does a great job in this. He's very disturbed. His whole life was kind of messed up, and his marriage is bad, and he's taking it out by starting fires. So it's really an intense show, really well acted. I recommend it on Apple Plus, called Smoke.
Smoke. I'm going to have to check that out.
So I think we've done about as much damage as we can. We want to thank Glenn Morgan for driving all the way out to Palatine to join us. He'll be with us throughout the season, talking Bears and NFL. Stacey, got anything else for the folks before we say goodbye?
I'm still resenting the fact that you guys like to make fun of my little green outfit today. I just want to throw that out there, America. I didn't appreciate it. I was attacked as soon as I walked through the door. And I'm looking for apologies after this is over.
See, we thought this was an Oakland A's hat, but it's actually...
It is Oakland A's.
No.
It's Oakland A's. It's a training batting cap hat.
I thought it says Angels.
No.
We left out, though, Mark, was the Jolly Green Giant. I was gonna...
Stacey, it says Angels baseball.
Hey, Mark, you don't need to point that out, okay, buddy? Anyway, America, I've been attacked since I walked into the building today, and I don't appreciate it. I'm one of the most supportive teammates of these guys. When I got voted in the most sexiest man in Idaho, I wanted these guys on the photo. They said no, they declined. So I was pulling for my boys. And I'm still waiting for a boat ride from this guy right here. We've yet to see the boat. I've yet to be invited.
Green beans.
Wow.
Ho, ho, ho.
Wow, okay. This
Giant.
This is getting out of hand here. America,
thanks, Mark.
Hey, thanks for watching. Drive home safely. BB.
He didn't come for the massage. He came for the facial. Don't zoom in. Does anybody know how to post videos to Facebook? There's a block right reminder to get the invitation. That's a huge three. Mustard. Lonzo left alone. Gimme sauce. Able to swerve, bend that corner. That's the last time I'm going to see it. Williams straight on. Giants. Look out what you hit. Boozy